लाइक करें, सब्सक्राइब करें और बेल आइकन जरूर प्रेस करें।
The cafe was almost empty that rainy evening, just the soft hum of the coffee machine, the faint scent of cinnamon, and a quiet girl wiping down the counter with trembling hands. Her name was Aisha. She was new, shy, and dressed in a simple uniform that hung loose on her small frame. Her shoes were worn, her hands rough, but her eyes, those deep, timid eyes, had a softness that could make anyone stop and look twice. And he did. Armin, a well-dressed architect in his late 20s, had come in just to escape the rain. He wasn't looking for anything, or anyone. But the moment Aisha smiled at him, awkwardly and shyly as she handed him his cup, something shifted inside him. It wasn't love at first sight in the dramatic sense, it was something gentler, purer, like a quiet realization that this girl carried more beauty in her heart than most people did in their entire lives. Over the next few weeks, Armin became a regular. He told himself it was for the coffee, but deep down he knew the truth. He came to see her. He noticed how she would tuck her hair behind her ear when nervous, how she would apologize too much, how she never met anyone's eyes for long. Yet, she always smiled when she saw him. A shy, genuine smile that made his heart feel oddly lighter. One day, he found her sitting alone outside the cafe after a shift, her uniform stained, her eyes red. He hesitated but finally asked, "Are you okay?" Aisha tried to nod but tears spilled out anyway. "It's just been a long day," she whispered. But Armin knew there was more. He sat beside her under the dim streetlight until she spoke again. "My mother's sick. I work double shifts to pay for her medicine, but it's still not enough. I don't have anyone else." That night changed everything. Armin began visiting not just for coffee, but for her. Sometimes, he brought food. Other times, he quietly left envelopes with a small amount of money, never saying it was from him. He didn't want her to feel pity, he wanted her to feel supported. Aisha, though suspicious at first, soon guessed it was him. When she confronted him, she said, "Why are you doing this? You don't even know me." Armin smiled softly. "Because sometimes you don't need to know someone to care about them. You just feel it." From then on, their friendship deepened. Aisha started to open up, about her dreams, her fears, and how she once wanted to study literature but had to drop out. Armin listened, encouraged, and helped her believe in herself again. Slowly, the shy girl who once hid behind silence began to laugh more, talk more, and even dream again. But life, as it often does, tested them. Armin's family discovered his growing affection for Aisha. They were wealthy and proud, and they didn't approve. "She's just a poor waitress," his mother said coldly. "She doesn't belong in our world." He tried to reason with them, but the pressure grew unbearable. His parents arranged meetings with other suitable girls, subtly threatening to see. Rain poured down over the city that night, washing the streets clean but leaving behind the smell of loneliness. Inside a small, dimly lit cafe, a young woman worked quietly behind the counter, her hands trembling as she wiped the same table for the 5th time. Her name was Aisha. She was new, nervous, and visibly poor. Her faded uniform was a size too big, her shoes were worn, and her hair was tied back in a loose bun. She didn't speak much, only smiled politely at customers before lowering her gaze again. That was the night Armin first saw her. He wasn't supposed to be there, he had stopped in to escape the rain on his way home from work. A successful architect, confident and composed, Armin was used to polished people and smooth conversations. But something about this quiet girl behind the counter caught his attention. Maybe it was the way she seemed invisible to everyone else. Maybe it was the exhaustion in her eyes. Or maybe it was that one moment, when she accidentally met his gaze and gave him a small, shy smile. That smile hit him harder than anything ever had. Over the next few days, Armin found excuses to return. He told himself it was for the coffee, but every time he entered, his eyes searched for her first. Aisha would always greet him with that same timid smile, never flirtatious, never forced, just pure and kind. Slowly, their small exchanges turned into brief conversations. She began to open up a little, talking about the cafe, her co-workers, and her dreams of one day studying again. But behind her soft laughter, Armin sensed something heavy. One evening, he saw her sitting alone outside the cafe, her head in her hands. He hesitated for a moment before sitting beside her. Rough day, he asked gently. Aisha tried to smile but failed. It's my mother, she whispered. She's sick, and I can't afford her medicine. I'm doing everything I can, but it's never enough. Her voice broke on the last word, and Armin felt a sharp pain in his chest. That night, he couldn't sleep. He thought about her, how she worked long hours for little pay, how she carried her burdens quietly, without complaint. The next morning, he returned to the café with an envelope and slipped it beneath a cup on her counter. Inside was money, enough to help her mother. When Aisha found it, she ran outside to stop him. You can't do this, she said, her eyes filled with tears. I don't want your pity. Armin looked at her and said softly, it's not pity, Aisha. It's care. Everyone deserves help sometimes. From that day on, their bond deepened. Armin began helping her study in the evenings, encouraging her to dream again. Aisha, in return, reminded him of the simple joys of life, the value of kindness, humility, and love without conditions. Their connection was something neither had expected but both had needed. But love is rarely simple. When Armin's family found out about Aisha, everything changed. His parents were furious. She's a waitress, Armin. A poor girl fr.